even though it's a team sport, every player has to do their part. And while my husband's strengths might be able to make up for my weaknesses, he cannot play my spot for me. I cannot play his spot for him. Each of us has to do our own work on this team.
You're listening to the Life Edit Project podcast, where busy, ambitious high achievers get the tools they need to fight perfectionism and overwhelm so they can smash their goals without all the drama. I'm your host, recovering overachiever turned professional life coach, Elizabeth Burrows. Let's get to it. Good day, good people. Welcome to episode 59 of the Life Edit Project podcast with me, your girl, your favorite life coach and podcast host, Coach Elizabeth. Yeah. I have a special episode for you this week because I'm celebrating a special occasion. This episode is actually dropping the day after my 13th wedding anniversary. Isn't that special? That's right. Your girl has been a whole wife for 13 years. You know, I don't talk a lot about myself and my personal life here on the show, not because I'm hiding anything, and, not because I don't want y'all to know me, because I really do, but because I know that y'all don't care as much about my life as you care about your own. And so while this is my show, it's really about you. This show is made to be a resource for you, a tool that can help you create more of the life that you want for yourself. And, me talking about myself all the time does not get you there. So yes, when it's relevant, I will do a little show and tell from my own life. And my anniversary feels like one of those times. Here's why. Because I know that relationships can be a real struggle for us recovering perfectionists. And marriage is really one of the most complex relationships that we can have with another person. Like, don't let anybody tell you different. Marriage is complicated. So as someone who's been married for more than a decade and is able to reflect on that time through the lens of a life coach, I have a few insights that I want to share with you all, and I hope that it will be helpful for you in your own relationships with spouses or partners, or really with anyone else that matters to you. So what you're about to hear is a rebroadcast of a live stream that I did 3 years ago, right after my 10th wedding anniversary. Now, yes, I have learned a few more things since this broadcast originally aired, but I do still stand on the 10 things that I shared in this original conversation. So I'm bringing it here to the podcast because I don't know if you've heard it before. It was 3 years ago, and I don't know if you were following me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever way back when. So I'm bringing it here because this is where I know you are, and sharing is caring, and I care about you. I do, boo. Okay, before we dive in, please remember, if you want someone to help you have a better relationship with yourself and with the people around you without needing the relationship or the people you're in relationship with to be perfect, I'm your girl. I can help. Just follow the link that's in the show notes to book a sales call with me and sign up for my one-on-one coaching program. And we can get this thing started. We'll get this show on the road. All right, that's enough of an intro for right now. Go ahead and put on your listening ears and your thinking cap and get ready to dive into these 10 lessons from 10 years of marriage from yours truly. Ready? Let's go.
Celebrated my 10th wedding anniversary. Yay! That was last week. I'm married to a wonderful man, Travis Burrows. and he's fabulous. So, and I feel like 10 years of marriage is an achievement, right? Like, it's a major, like, a lot of people get married, right? So marriage in and of itself is not an achievement. But I know that a lot of marriages don't necessarily last. And of course, I've also seen lots of examples of marriages where people are together, but they're not necessarily happy. And so I consider myself extremely fortunate because not only has my marriage been successful and we've, made it through 10 years, but we're also happily married. So I'm just really excited about that. And so, of course, as a life coach, as a mindset coach, I use this milestone, this opportunity in my life to reflect and to see what I could learn from 10 years of marriage. And I came up with 10 lessons. And of course, I want to bring those lessons to you. So they're not exactly in any particular order. So it's not like the least important lesson to the most important. But I do think the order that I'm going to give these to you, I think they build on each other a little bit. So we're going to start off with something that's pretty simple. So lesson number 1, marriage is hard, right? Not a big surprise there. If you have been in any kind of relationship, and especially a marriage, then you probably already know this. Marriage is hard. But here's the thing. Being single, because I was single before I was married, being single is hard too, right? And if I were single right now versus being single 10 years ago, it would also be hard, right? So the lesson there is, life is going to be hard. The things you choose to do are going to be hard. Pick your hard, right? Pick the hard thing that actually moves you closer to what it is that you want. Pick your hard. So marriage is hard, and trying to get into a marriage expecting it to be easy would not be something that serves me in actually maintaining a happy and successful marriage over the long term. So marriage is hard. Deal with it. Being single, the alternatives to marriage would also be hard. So there you go. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, y'all know me. I'm looking at my notes here. Lesson number 2. Marry someone that doesn't try to negotiate your non-negotiables. I'm gonna say that again. Marry someone that doesn't try to negotiate your non-negotiables. And why? This goes back to point number 1, because marriage is already hard, right? And if you marry someone that is always trying to, that will not or is not able to give you the basics of what it is that you need, or if you marry someone that refuses to give you what you need, that withholds what you need from you, marriage is going to be even harder. And marriage is already hard. So start off with the right choice. Don't make things harder than they need to be by doing it the hard way. Boom. There's your lesson number 2. Lesson number 3. I'm going through these kind of quickly because if I take a long time, it's going to be a super long video. But definitely remember, if you have any questions, drop your questions into the comments and I'm glad to respond to them. Lesson number 3, agreeing all the time is overrated. Ooh, you didn't see that one coming. So here's the thing. After being married it didn't even take 10 years to get to this lesson. All right. Just don't say that. I figured out pretty early on that it was a waste of time trying to get my husband to agree with everything I said and did. Also, it was a waste of time and energy for me to try to force myself to agree with everything my husband said and did. But here's the part that's super liberating. Agreement just isn't always required. Like, I don't have to agree with the way my husband folds towels. I don't. He doesn't have to agree with the way that I wash dishes, right? And here's the thing, as people, especially in relationships and marriage, sometimes we like to make disagreement mean that we don't support each other. And that's not the same thing, right? So agreement is not necessary for me to support my husband as his wife. And he doesn't have to agree with me to support me as my husband. So realizing that allows us to respect the differences between each other, because differences are not inherently bad. So, and if differences are not inherently bad, then that means that disagreeing is also not inherently wrong. And it doesn't mean that anything in the relationship has gone wrong. So I hope that's a lesson for you. I hope you use that. Lesson number 4 that I have learned, commitment is more important than feelings. Yeah. I think especially when it comes to marriage, I think this is where some folks can get it wrong. When you overemphasize the importance of your feelings on the success of your relationship, it can get easy to be discouraged. So we've been married for 10 years. Our marriage absolutely goes through seasons. There are days, hours, moments where I don't exactly like my husband, right? And where he doesn't like me. He's getting on my nerves. I'm getting on his nerves, right? And we don't make that mean anything other than we're two human beings that have different brains and different bodies and different desires, right? That are building a life together, right? Because we're different people, there will sometimes be contrast and conflict, and it doesn't always feel good, right? But that does not mean that we are not committed to the life and the partnership that we're building together. So every day we choose each other on purpose. We choose our marriage on purpose so that we can stay together and actually, create the marriage that we want. Yeah, so we don't make our day-to-day feelings define our marriage. So that's lesson number 4. Commitment is more important than feelings. And I want to just clarify, I'm not saying that feelings aren't important, right? Like, feelings absolutely matter, but the commitment can supersede feelings. And we can choose to be together and choose to work things out, and just choose to be okay with our uncomfortable feelings. So that's a lesson. Listen, if you're watching this, whether you're watching the replay or watching live, do me a favor, drop into the comments and let me know if you're married. If you're married, I want you to drop a red heart emoji into the comments, because I want to know, of those of you who are watching this video, who's married and who's not. And then I would love to hear whether or not these lessons are helpful to you. So I'm going to keep going. Lesson number 5, marriage. All right. I got a little metaphor. It might be a little corny. Here we go. Marriage is more like an ice cream sundae than it is like a box of chocolates. Yeah. Okay. So, in the movie Forrest Gump says, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So when I think of a box of chocolates, I think of course, these sweet little desserts, right? Where everything is, if you open up a box of chocolates, all of the chocolates are like in their own little cubby hole and they don't touch each other, right? So it's all compartmentalized and separate. And of course, if the chocolates are stuffed with something different, there's a surprise when you open them up or when you bite into them. Ice cream sundaes aren't like that. With ice cream sundaes, you know exactly what is in your sundae because you build it with your ingredients, right? Like, you layer it with a foundation of, I don't know, if you're doing a banana split, right? The banana is the foundation of your ice cream sundae. Or maybe you're using a brownie, right? But like your sundae has a foundation and then you layer other things on top of it. And the thing with an ice cream sundae is, yeah, all of those things are layered together, but so they're separate in the beginning. But as time goes on, everything just kind of starts to melt together, and then it becomes impossible to separate out the different elements of it. And eventually, as you start spooning out, bites of your ice cream sundae, you're going to get a little bit of everything into one bite. Even if you're just trying to go after, the nut, or you're just trying to go after a chocolate chip, you're going to get some ice cream up in there too, right? You're going to get some brownie or banana or, sprinkles in there too, whatever ingredients you have in there, because it's all mixed together. And marriage is like that. The longer you're with someone and the longer you're building a life with someone, the more the different parts of your life blend together. And this is also why, the longer we're together, we might be having a conversation about dishes, and then it leads to, maybe an argument about, parenting, right? Like because it's all connected. It all just kind of melds together. And this is not a problem. I just want to offer that, right? Like that, in fact, is the whole point. And if you, because I don't resist having my life blend together with my husband's, it's perfectly fine for everything to melt together and to all get up in the mix. It just means that I have to be prepared for any piece of my life to interact with any other piece of my life in the context of my marriage. So that's just another lesson that I have with kind of a weird metaphor that I came up with. Okay, lesson 6. A perfect union, a perfect marriage, doesn't require perfect people. A perfect marriage does not require perfect people. And this is such good news because there's no such thing as a perfect person, right? I'm not perfect. My husband's not perfect. But we can be perfect for each other. We don't require perfection of each other, but instead, what we're doing is just choosing to make the most and get the most out of the marriage that we have. And whenever you bring that mindset to a relationship where you're determined to experience it as successful and as the best that is available to you, you make it better, like inherently. So it's okay for things to be imperfect. It's okay for people to be imperfect. It can still be a wonderful experience. And in fact, I will also just say that being married to this imperfect man, but in this perfect marriage, has made me a better woman. And I'm pretty sure my husband would say that our marriage has made him a better man. I'm pretty sure. So that's lesson number 6. Lesson number 7. Oh, all right, y'all. This is a good one. Hurt is unavoidable. This is a 2-parter. Hurt is unavoidable. When you share so much of your life with someone, when you expose yourself, when you become vulnerable to someone, it's unavoidable that you will end up being hurt, because there are a lot of different ways that we can hurt each other, even when we're not doing it on purpose, right? So being hurt, even within a marriage between 2 loving and committed people, hurt is unavoidable. But here's the good news. Healing is always an option. The hurt doesn't have to be permanent damage. I just want to let that marinate for a minute. Being hurt within the context of a marriage or any relationship does not have to mean that you stay hurt, that you stay permanently wounded, right? So feelings change over time, but I just want to say that making the decision to heal is always on the table. So whatever happens within the context of my marriage, I know that no matter how bad it might feel, or how hurtful it may be, we can both choose to go to a different place where healing and restoration is possible. And I always like to make that choice. Now, sometimes, full transparency, sometimes I can get to that place where I choose to heal more quickly than other times, right? Because I'm human. and I gotta process my feelings. But because I want a loving and successful marriage, and a marriage that lasts, and a marriage that I can be proud of, I will always choose to heal from whatever hurt comes up. Period. That's part of the commitment that I talked about in a previous lesson here. So, okay, so that was lesson number 7. We got 3 more here, y'all. Okay, lesson number 8. Boundaries are necessary to have to have a healthy relationship. Boundaries are necessary to have a healthy relationship. And this is really closely connected to the last point I just made, because hurt is unavoidable, right? So boundaries, now I have some other videos and posts and things where I talk about boundaries, but so if you haven't seen those, take a look at those. I think they're mostly on Instagram. But boundaries are essentially limits that we create to protect ourselves. When you are not able to handle the exposure of being hurt, you can create a boundary that protects you. It's not about keeping someone out. It's about keeping yourself safe so that you can be okay and still be present in the relationship. So there are moments when it has been absolutely necessary for me to create boundaries between myself and my husband so that we don't hurt each other more than we have to. Necessary. Absolutely necessary. Because we're human, right? And we have feelings, and we don't always make good choices, right? Let's say that we don't always make good choices. So creating boundaries prevents those avoidable hurts, so that we're not damaging the fabric of our relationship more than we have to. Boundaries are absolutely necessary in every healthy relationship, especially within the context of marriage. And if somebody told you that there should be no boundaries between husband and wife, I will say to you that they are absolutely wrong. Boop, you can tell them I said it, okay? And I will challenge them to my 10 years of marriage. I'm just saying, boundaries are necessary. Lesson number 9 of my 10 lessons from 10 years of marriage is that you perfect what you practice in your marriage. You perfect what you practice in your marriage. Whatever it is you practice, you end up perfecting your strategy behind that. So if you practice respect, you end up perfecting respect within your relationship. If you practice communicating, you get better and better at communicating. If you practice being emotionally distant, if you practice abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, I guarantee you perfect how to maintain abuse within your relationship. If you practice enabling your partner or your spouse in whatever their bad habit or vice of choice is, I guarantee you perfect that enabling. And if you practice being faithful, you perfect faithfulness within your relationship. If you practice honesty, you perfect honesty within your relationship. So the dynamics of your relationship, of your marriage, are up to you. Hey, Shakendra, I see you on Facebook, girl. Hey, girl, hey. The dynamics within your relationship are up to you. If you want more intimacy, practice intimacy. Like, try again and again. If you want more understanding within your relationship, practice understanding your partner. It ain't rocket science, y'all. It ain't rocket science. But all of these things are a result of what you practice over and over and over again. And so it's really important to be intentional with everything that you do. Okay, I'm not going to belabor that one. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you for the hearts. Listen, if you're picking up what I'm laying down, give this some likes, drop something in the comments, let me know. Don't forget to share this with someone, tag your friends, because you know they need to hear this. Everybody knows you got that married couple whose relationship ain't really on 10. You know it, okay? All right, but we ain't gonna call nobody out. Don't call nobody out. Okay. Last point here. Point number 10, from 10 lessons of 10 years of marriage. Marriage is a team sport. Marriage is a team sport. So, all right, I'm not really into sports, but I love a good sports analogy, so bear with me here. Some people, I've heard people make analogies about marriage, comparing marriage to war, where the husband's on one side and the wife's on the other side, and it's a battle, right? Comparing it to a game or another kind of sport where the husband and wife are on different teams and they're actually fighting against each other. That's not what it is. My marriage is a team sport. My husband and I are on the same team. We actually say to each other all the time, Team Burrows. Like, we have each other's back. We are on each other's team, right? We're co-captains of Team Burrows, right? It's him and me together. And of course, our daughter is on Team Burrows too, right? So marriage is a team sport. And in this team sport, each of us has a role to play. We each have a role to play in winning, in being successful, in scoring whatever we're calling points. We each have a role to play. And yes, if I have a weakness, there are times where my husband can pick up some of the slack and vice versa. We have different strengths that complement each other's weaknesses, right? That's part of what makes our team work so well together. But here's the thing. Even though it's a team sport, every player has to do their part. And while my husband's strengths might be able to make up for my weaknesses, he cannot play my spot for me. I cannot play his spot for him. Each of us has to do our own work on this team. Marriage is a team sport, but you have to do your own work. So if I want happiness in my marriage, I have to create it. I can't say to my husband, you have to make me happy. Nope, that's my work. And he can't tell me that I have to make him happy. That's his work. If I have something that I am dealing with, if there is something within me that has gone wrong, yes, he's a support for me, he is there for me, but he can't heal it for me. That's my work. I have to do my own work. So I just wanted to let y'all know that I have these lessons. I'm not going to repeat them all, y'all, because we've been on for more than 20 minutes already. But those are my 10 lessons from 10 years of marriage.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you have a question or a favorite insight from today's conversation, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message on social media. I'm in all the places. My handle is @LifeEditProject, all one word. And of course, my accounts are linked up in the show notes to make it easy for you, so holla at your girl. I'll be back in your ears next week with a fresh episode. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Life Edit Project podcast wherever you like to listen so that you don't miss a thing. Until then, peace.